couples bicker over many things, chores are among the top of the list. But a new study suggests men in same-sex couples are happier with how their household chores are divided up as opposed to other groups. Catey Hill joins us now to discuss the debut of her new column, The Balance. Hi, Catey. Great to have you here. Tell us quickly about The Balance.
It's just helping parents balance work and family life. And I'm a new mom, and I know you feel guilt when you're at work and leaving early, guilt that you haven't been with the kids. So it's really how to balance this effectively.
Of course, and it affects dads as much as moms.
Yeah, absolutely.
It affects all genders, which is why this interesting study highlighting how gay couples seem to have something figured out is particularly fascinating. Tell us who are the most unhappy, according to the study.
Me and you. Women in straight couples are the most unhappy with how all this work is divided up.
And why is that? We tend to fall into these traditional roles even if we're working as much as our husbands?
That's what you would think. You would think it's, oh, these gender roles, we feel like, oh, we have to take on the burden of all this stuff. What actually it is, which was so interesting to me, is the couples who communicated before they moved in, hey, you do this and I do this, they were the happiest couples. When they didn't communicate about how to divide up the chores, that's when they got the lead. You were sort of very unsatisfied with that. So it's really about communication more than about gender roles. So even if the person was doing the lion's share of all of the household responsibilities, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're unhappy if they had discussed beforehand, this is how we're going to do this.
Interesting. So it's not about parity necessarily,
Right.
It's about communication.
Right.
So is that what this study found with gay male couples?
Yeah, that they tend to, before they move in together, or right when they move in together, they say, hey, you do this, I do this is how we're going to do childcare, this is how we're going to do housework. And whereas straight male, female couples, they didn't really tend to do that. And so a lot of times, especially the women in those couples, felt like, what on earth? I'm doing all this work, and they never felt like it had been talked about or discussed. They just picked it up almost by accident.
So they did sort of fall into some gender roles.
Right. So the gender was kind of a secondary thing. Like that did happen, but the main thing they found was that communication was the key here. The people who communicated first, you know, about this before they moved in were the happiest with how it was divided up. Even if it would seem like someone did 30 hours and someone did 10, if that was how it worked out, they were still happier that they communicated.
So in these happy gay male couples, there was a big difference in how the chores were divided.
There was some difference. So gay male couples, there tend to be they're a little more equal in how those chores were divided. But still, I mean, what they thought when they pulled out all that data, they really thought it's because they talked about how the division was going to happen, that's the reason that those couples were so much happier with how, you know, childcare, household, laundry, all the stuff everybody, you know.
Everybody has to deal with it. And it's worth talking about this and hammering it out, right, Catey? Because how important is this element of a relationship?
I mean, 2/3 of people think that it's very key to a happy marriage that you talk about these things beforehand, and people just don't do it. You know,
even more than whether you're the same religion.
I know, which to me, I was like, wow, you know, you would think that would predict happy marriage, but nope, it's how you split the chores.
It's people. Who is unloading that dishwasher.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, Catey, thank you so much for that.